your perfectly cooked cake. And there it is.
Oh.
Quatre quarts, 4 quarters, a cake of 4 ingredients, all weighing exactly the same. That's how.
Lovely. How can you make shoes out of paper?
Out of paper?
Yeah, they make shoes out of leather.
Exactly.
No, boys. The shoes I've been wearing all day in the studio are made completely out of paper. And I'd like to introduce you to another pair of shoes worn by the paper shoe expert maker, Chris Knowles. You've written books on the subject, haven't you, Chris? Now, how do I make these? First of all, what are they made from?
Well, all you need is a cardboard box from your local supermarket, some wrapping paper, and the paper to cover the shoe. That's all you need.
Sounds great so far. What about making a simple pair of sandals? Let's start with the easy bit.
Well, the first thing you'd have to do is to make a template of your foot. And you must make sure that the corrugations run across the foot.
That way?
That's right.
Okay,
so that it
and then
bends
just
correctly.
draw around it.
That's right.
And try not to get the felt tip all over your foot. Okay, and that becomes a template.
That's right.
Right.
And
What
from
next?
those, you'd actually make 3 corrugated soles for each of the shoes you want to make. So that's 6 corrugated soles.
What about the bit on top?
Well, you would cut the packaging paper and then cover it with the paper that you want your shoe to look like. And then you would actually fold the corners over to give it additional strength. And then quite simply, you lay that around like that and glue it on. And then having glued these 3 together, you glue it like that, and there's your shoe.
Now, is this a little bit slippy at the bottom?
Well, to counteract that, we have that.
What's that?
Well, it's carbion paper. It's the paper that you find to package wine bottles.
Okay, well, that sounds wonderful. What about if you want to do something more complicated?
Well, I think you would look at the shoes you've got at home, and from the pieces that you see on the shoes, you'd make a pair like this.
Fruity boots.
Yes, indeed.
You've got a great deal of imagination, and particularly so with these. I love these platforms.
Well, the Elton John shoe, of course.
With wings.
Yes.
Fly me. What about
And,
these? These look like they're made out of cloth.
Well, it's a banana fibre, actually. And
I'm afraid these are my favourites, the dinky
How could you
child
resist?
shoe. Aren't they beautiful?
it's all recyclable. It's all bits of paper and boxes that you can find anywhere.
Marvellous. Thank you very much indeed, Chris Knowles. And that is how you can make shoes completely out of paper.
How do you look up someone's name in the phone book in Iceland? Well, Iceland's easy enough to find. There it is, in a volcanic place on the edge of the Arctic Circle. But finding people's names in the phone book is a bit different in Iceland, and I'll explain why. In this country, you have a last name. Let's take the example of a family we know well, Fred's family, okay? This is Fred's family tree, or if you like, the Dinage lineage.
Lineage.
Okay, the Didiage lineage then. Right, Fred, there you are, Fred Dinage, and your wife, Deirdre, and your 2 kids, Edgar and Frida, right? Now, your father, my right, was called Dennis.
Yes.
Duncan was his father.
Yes.
Duncan's father was Donald.
Yeah.
And Donald's father was Dustman.
Good old Dusty.
All Dinages. Right. Now, in Iceland, things would be slightly different. You don't have a last name, so to speak of, in Iceland. You get your last name from your father's first name. So Fred, your dad was called Dennis.
Yeah.
That means that you, if you were Icelandic, would actually be called Fred Dennisson. Dennis's son, literally. Now then, that means that Dennis, your father, whose father was Duncan, would
Dennis
be called...
Duncanson.
Dennis Duncanson. And Duncan would be...
Duncan Donaldson.
Duncan Donaldson. And Donald's your father...
Donald
whose father was-
Dustmanson.
You're ahead of me. Donald Dustmanson.
I've cracked it.
Ah, OK, let's try the children,
Yeah.
right? You've got Edgar and Frida. Now, Edgar...
Edgar Fredson.
Quite right.
Yes.
And Frida...
Frida Fredson.
Wrong, Fred. She is Frida, Fred's daughter, or as they say in Iceland, Fred's dottir. Now also, women in Iceland, when they get married, don't take their husband's last name, they stay with their father's first name. So Deirdre would be Deirdre, David's daughter, or David's dottir. So the first name is far more important than the last name if you live in Iceland. And this is how you look people up in the phone book.
How about Bjork?
Bjork.
We like Bjork.
OK, Bjork is, well, her last name is Gudmunds dottir. Her dad was called Goodman.
Look it up.
Well, I don't look under Goodman, I look under Bjork first. Yeah. Bjork, and find Gudmunds dottir. There we are.
What's
yeah.
the number?
I'm sorry, Fred. She's ex-directory. So that's how you look up someone's number in the phone book in Iceland, by the first name, not the last.
How can you have a thunderstorm indoors? In a theatre, how can you have wonderful storm effects?
They use sound effects records, don't they?
These days they use sound effects records, and also if you want to, you could go out and record your own sound effects on a tape recorder. But how did they get on 100 years ago before all these wonderful inventions?
It was a dark and stormy night, and the sound effects man struggled on through the howling wind. The howling wind is a wind machine which drags a canvas strip over a resonant drum. With the wind came the rain beating against the window, a handful of dried peas being rolled around inside a tight drumskin. Sudden vivid flashes of light lit up a hideous figure. It was Gareth operating the lightning shutters. Suddenly the earth shook, to the sound of thunder, Carol Vorderman shaking the life out of a hunk of galvanized steel. And that is how, 100 years ago, you could have a thunderstorm in a theatre. Get those recorders going for Data Blast now, because now it's... How about to be or not to be?
What was your question?
I don't know.
Fred! What? I've got terrible wind!
Not again.